Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining Martin Ho's press conference. We are here to preview our WSL season opener against West Ham this weekend. We have a lot on the line today, so we'll try and get through everybody. We will have questions both in the room and on the online feed. If you're joining on the online feed, please use the raise hand function to ask questions. We have no embargoes. We'll kick off in the room with Keris on the microphone, please.
Hi, Martin.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Nice to meet you. I just wanted to ask, starting off your first Women's Super League game this weekend, what have been your first impressions coming into the league as a head coach for the first time, working with the squad? How are you feeling ahead of the season?
Yeah, really excited. I think it's the right time to come back. I think to take the next step in my career, more importantly, and I've gained valuable experience being away now. Learning management, learning about in terms of managing staff and managing a club and working with leadership in terms of above me. I think we've had a really good pre-season. I've had a really good opportunity to assess the squad and look at the processes behind the squad of the staffing and how we do things to make it more streamlined. And I think I'm really excited now. All you're waiting for is the first game to start and the league season to start. But I think the last 5-6 weeks has been very important for me to have my eyes on the squad, as I said, and from a staffing perspective to have eyes on that to make sure that we can be the most efficient.
And if you were to summarise, sort of for those who might not have watched teams you've coached play before, what should fans expect to see different from Spurs this season? What's the way that your team will look to play?
Hopefully a bit like me. Passion, desire, commitment. There'll be a very high intense off the ball in terms of aggression, front-footed, defending, forward, more importantly. Then with the ball, being expressive, individual, making sure the players can express themselves with their own personality. Very direct, very front-footed, very energetic, more importantly, and very creative. And that's probably the part we need to get to. We need to use the club's DNA and the club's identity from a football perspective and make sure we embrace that. And hopefully we're going to do that throughout the season.
And just lastly for me, I just wanted to check in on the squad team news. How are things looking fitness-wise? Are there any absences we should be aware of?
No, the long-term ones before I was here, Ella, Luana, are still the same. And then Molly's got a little bit of a knock. She hasn't been in the last 2 games. So we're assessing her. And that's it, really. They're the ones who maybe are the only ones who are really missing, if I'm honest. We've had a few little knocks throughout, but all those players, a lot of them have trained today. Apart from the long-term absences and Molly, we seem to be in a really good place.
Thanks, Martin. Good luck.
Okay. We'll pass the mic.
What is your goal for this season? And then what are your longer-term aspirations for the team? And when do you see them being able to challenge for those European spots and trophies in the near future?
Yeah, I think the ambitions for the group, we need to, more importantly, as we know we need to be better than we was last year. And that will start with me and finish with me in terms of how we play and how we behave on the pitch, more importantly. We want to make sure we better last year. We should be pushing ourselves, and you don't want to put a ceiling on where you can finish because then it looks like it's an overachievement, in my opinion. So we'll push as much as we can and make sure we get as high at the table as we can. And the ambitions for the team and the club, not just team in terms of in general, but for the wider team in terms of staffing and for players, it's to make sure we're competitive and not just a one-off season where we finish 5th and then we finish 11th. We want to be consistent with that. So more importantly, making sure we're competitive in every game we go into, making sure we're building a very clear structure and strategy moving forward to be successful, not just now, but in the longer term. And more importantly, going to Europe is where everyone wants to be. And those places only come with real consistent and persistent performances year in, year out. And we need to make sure that we start with these performances now going to this first game. And as I've said to the players, you're usually remembered for your first performance in the league. And we want to make sure that's a good one. But we have ambitions to get there, but we know we've got a lot of work to do to get to those top 3 positions.
Excellent. How are you feeling ahead of Spurs' first match? Obviously, it's a home match in front of the fans, and how important do you think the fan base is going to be to the team's improvement and hopefully success this season? Yeah,
really important. I think really nice for me to have the first game in front of the fans, and it's not being an away game, more importantly. to me be able to witness what it's like in terms of the stadium, getting to the game, being at the game. And then more importantly, me being able to look around and see all the fans that come out, and more importantly, they're supporting the group of players, the club, and we need to, more importantly, make sure they want to come back and watch, and that has to come through performance, but more importantly, a commitment from the playing group that when they're on the pitch, they give everything. And more importantly, away from that, we have to make sure that we're inspiring another generation of fans, and that doesn't just mean the group that have come and supported us last year, but further fans in terms of wider group. So no, it's going to be really important, and more important, we need those fans to make sure that we can take the necessary steps to where we want to go.
Excellent. And lastly, from me, have there been any players that have particularly impressed you so far? And is there anyone we should watch out for in particular this year?
Everyone. No, they've all been brilliant. I couldn't have asked any more. A change in playing style and a change in identity, coach, process, way of working can be challenging for everyone, and staff included. And more importantly, the players have embraced everything we've done. They have made sure that they've applied themselves correctly in everything we've asked, and they've gone above and beyond in terms of the intent, the application that I'm asking for. So everyone's doing really well. And I said this when I first come here. The most important thing for me is there's a lot of talent in this group, and there's a lot of potential in the group, individually and collectively. And more importantly, that's for me to bring that out to them. And maybe this change in environment and culture has allowed that. And more importantly, I've got to make sure that that's maintained throughout the season now and beyond, to make sure that we, as I said, we can take the necessary steps, but more important, we can be competitive.
Cool. We'll just pass back to Tabitha.
Hi, I just wanted to ask about your new signings. How have they settled into the team? Yeah,
really well. Toko is very young, exciting, and is going to be a superb player now for us now and in the future. Nationally is capped, which is really important and shows the quality that she possesses. Settled in really well. It's a new culture for her, new environment, new country, new language, more importantly. And she's done exceptionally well. And I can see in large spells of her game through training, and more importantly, that she's comfortable now, she's settled really well, and she understands what we require and what this club's about, which is nice. And Katinka, another brilliant signing for us. Will add depth to the squad, but more importantly, gives us an energy, a commitment, a personality in that final third. Is a huge threat in and around the box in terms of goal scoring, but physically is a handful for any defender. She's physically strong, she's powerful, and a work ethic and commitment on the other side of the game is second to none. And obviously, I've seen a lot of that when I was abroad now. But more importantly, Katinka's ceiling of potential is very high. And more importantly, this is a sign, and not just for now, but for the future. And I believe she can, as she wants to, as she said yesterday in a media, she wants to be seen as a legend like Harry Kane was here. And we want to make sure that we give her every opportunity to do so.
So you beat Southampton 3-1 in your latest preseason friendly. How has that helped you set up for the rest of the season?
Yeah, important. And not just the Southampton game, but I think if you look through the rest of the pre-season, more important, we went away to Sevilla and played in different conditions and different circumstances, which is good for the players. And we then played a London derby, whether it's pre-season or not. And we've had to really overcome some adverse moments in that game when we've scored, we went behind. And I thought the players showed real big character in those moments. And the biggest thing for me is shifting the mentality of the group and really instilling a confidence and belief within them that maybe wasn't there last season. And now actually through the pre-season, getting to the Southampton game, I think we've took really big steps in the direction we want to go. I know that in 5 or 6 weeks, that doesn't change everything and we don't become this unbelievable and big successful team overnight. But more importantly, it's took us in the direction we want to go. And if it wasn't the direction we wanted to go, and I'd be honest, I'd tell you. But more importantly, it's the right steps in the right moments. And I know we've got a lot of work to do, but yeah, I'm really pleased that we come out of pre-season, and these are small things, and we only play against the opponent that's in front of you, but we come out of pre-season unbeaten, which is important. That again gives confidence to the group. And more importantly, when you're playing in big games like we did against Arsenal and Sevilla, which are two top teams, we've been competitive. And that's the most important part for me, that we can take big learnings from that.
And last one from me, how are you feeling ahead of the expansion of the league at the end of the season? No,
brilliant. And I think that's probably the right, as I said, the right time for me to come back, because the league has took big steps. And when I was here previously and then I've come away, I've been watching from afar, and you see the the infrastructure's now changed, the ownership has changed, and now there's more teams going to come into the league, which makes it more competitive. And no, I'm really excited. Exactly, it's more games, which is more important for us. It's different competition, which is even better. And then more importantly for me, for the wider game, it allows more players to be professional. And I think that's really important for me, that as coaches, we're here to grow the game and obviously do our job for our clubs, but we should be able to try and push the game forward and be happy that more players, more women, more young girls can see a future in the game and there's a pathway to professional football. And I'll play my part in that 100%.
Okay, thank you in the room. We're going to move to questions on the online feed. We'll first come to James Cole, Sky Sports.
Okay.
Hi, Martin.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. It definitely feels like a new era at Tottenham at the moment, doesn't it? A lot of change. Do you share the excitement that a lot of fans are feeling at the moment?
Yeah, of course. And I can only speak on behalf of myself, the women's team more importantly, and the players. I think, yeah, it's been a new start for us, and obviously the men with Thomas. And yeah, it's going to be a really exciting season, and something both of us are going to embrace it as more coaches of Tottenham Hotspur, that we have to make sure our teams go out there and they play with a personality, but more importantly, we make them successful.
The departure of Daniel Levy after 25 years as exec chairman shocked many. Were you surprised?
Obviously, as a colleague here, I've obviously had numerous dealings with Daniel when I come here, and he's a wonderful person. He's done a lot for me in the short term in terms of being here, and I can't speak any more highly of him as a person and as a leader of this club. And more importantly, I wish him all the best in what he does. I thank him for what he's done for this club in the short and long term. He's made this a fortress, and more importantly, he's built a world-class football club, which I'm very, very thankful for, because I have the opportunity to be here now. And yeah, I wish him all the best, and more importantly, I thank him for everything he's done for us.
He had big plans for the women's team. Are you confident, or have you been reassured that will continue going forward?
Yeah, 100%. The club's right behind in terms of what we're doing, and more importantly, the strategy for the women's team and the investments in the women's team will continue, and no doubt that you'll see that over the course of the next 6 to 12 months in terms of our movements. But more importantly, it's I have the right people around me now in leadership, and the likes of Andy, Rebecca and Vinay will continue to push this club forward, and I'll play my part in that also.
And finally for me, the women played 3 games, I think, last season at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's obviously a brilliant stadium. Would you like that to increase this time?
Yeah, 100%, and I think everyone does. Who doesn't want to play, probably, if I'm honest, the best stadium in world football in terms of how it is and what it possesses. And yeah, hopefully in the future we're working on a strategy to make sure that we can do more of that. But we also need to understand that at the same time, things have to be in place for that to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. We'll go to Tom Gary.
Hi Martin, really good to see you. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
How are okay, thank you. Sorry, much more light question. Wondering, what did you miss the most about living and working here in England?
Not any disrespect to the Norwegian league, but the competitive edge, the challenge individually. I got that over there, but I think here now there's no day off, Tom. I think more importantly for me, it's every day I've got to be challenged. Every day I need to be better. You're coming up against world-class coaches every single week, and more importantly, you have to do your due diligence to make sure that your team's prepared. And the right opportunity now to come back with the league growing, the ownership changing of the league. I think it's a very exciting time to be here.
And I know you've touched on this a lot already in the press conference, but really, what do you want to achieve this year? What's feasible for this team, in terms of something to achieve?
Yeah, I think I would never, and I think people know me well now, never put a ceiling on what we can achieve, because I feel like you limit what you can do, and I'll never do that. I believe this group has a lot of potential and a lot of quality. More importantly, I feel we can be really competitive in terms of league and cup. More importantly, I want to make sure that we establish a very clear identity and playing style, Tom, first, and more importantly, away from that our performances are consistent and there's not a big drop-off within performance. And by doing that, I think if you look after the performance process, you probably follow with results. But more important, we have to have a team that's passionate and committed to this club, and we have players that wear this badge with pride, more importantly. And if we do that, I believe we can be really competitive in the top half of the table, 100%.
Thanks, Martin. Good luck and see you.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Cheers, Tom. Jamie Spanger.
Hi Martin, nice to meet you.
How are you?
Very good, thanks. Martin, you're speaking a little bit there about returning to the WSL. I just wonder, you're a big part of that Manchester United campaign a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself coming from an assistant coach role to a head coach role in Norway, and what do you think you can bring from those experiences to the club?
Yeah, I think my experience is obviously spanning a long time in England, in those roles as assistant and in other roles too within youth development. And now my role being in Norway was something that I needed a different challenge. I think when you've been here for so long, you need something different. And I always wanted to know if management was for me, and if I would enjoy it, and that was something for the future. And when the opportunity came, it was important for me to go and embrace that if I ever had any ambitions of wanting to manage back in England. And that probably shaped a lot of my decision making and the way I coach now, and more importantly, my leadership and how you work with players, how you treat players is the biggest thing for me. And the biggest away from that, then putting an environment and a culture that the players can embrace. More importantly, they can be themselves. But with a very clear expectation of what we need to do to make sure this club is successful. And yeah, I've had moments when I was at Manchester United when we, especially the last couple of years, and under Mark, and then a couple of years under Casey. More importantly, I've learned a lot from both of them as coaches, and I learned a lot from the playing group there. More importantly, and some of those things we've done there has probably shaped how I think now coming back here. But I'm not blind to knowing that the league is totally different in 3 years from being away, and the caliber of player, the caliber of coach, and how this league now looks is totally different. And more importantly, I have to make sure that I make decisions for now and not what they was previously. But more importantly, make sure that I do what's right for this club to grow.
Brilliant. And I just want to ask about one time you spoke on Katinka Tambo, but more specifically, Martin, what is it that attracted your club to Katinka? She's a very good young striker, obviously at Hammarby, but you've got Martha Thomas and Beth England. Double barrel. What attracted you to her, and also what do you think she can bring to that front line that maybe the other strikers can't? Yeah,
and I think Katinka's a young, really young, talented player who's very creative and dynamic in that attacking third of the pitch, and a very, very strong goal scorer alongside the players we have already, as you mentioned. And more importantly, I want to have different profiles in that front line that enable us to play slightly different in certain moments, but also cause the opposition different problems. And if we have the same profile just in that position, or we just have one number 9 in those positions, I think you become too predictable. And I want to make sure that we're a little bit more difficult to play against. But Katinka's ceiling of talent is really high alongside the other players in the squad. And I want to make sure that we help her fulfill that. I think with the clubs that was interested in Katinka, I think we've done really well to get Katinka over the line, because there was big interest in England and abroad. And more importantly, she's chosen Tottenham. So yeah, we're very happy to have her here, and yeah, she will add value, more importantly, but competition in terms of in the forward line.
Brilliant. Thanks, Martin. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Dan Pentland.
Hi Martin, hope you're well. Just want to ask you about the recruitment, because obviously a couple of new players come in. Obviously across the league, a lot more sides have kind of added more to their group over the summer. So, coming to a side that struggled last season, do you kind of look at it that you've got a lot of the answers kind of already in the squad, and it's just kind of what you do with them as a coach? Yeah,
I think you've said it, Dan. I think the group definitely underperformed last season, and we know that. More importantly, it's my job to make sure I give them, which I've tried to do in the first 6 weeks now, try to give everyone an opportunity within my environment and with how we work and the methodology on the pitch, and see to make sure they embrace that. So I've tried to give them that opportunity in the short term, and more importantly, I've seen a lot of quality within that. So that's impressive and nice as a coach. And then in the window, I won't just bring in any player that I feel I just want to recruit for a numbers perspective. I want to make sure it's the right player for the team, the right profile for the team, and they're going to add value now and in the future. And if that player is not available, then we don't need to recruit. We have to work harder on the pitch. And that's something where I feel probably my strengths lie on the pitch in terms of the coaching side, in terms of developing players and making sure the team's competitive. And when the right signings are there and the right players are there, we will do it. But more importantly, I don't want to just have a group of players, more importantly, that are just here to be happy, more importantly, but also I don't want to just bring players in for the sake of doing it.
How easy is that kind of transition been with kind of implementing your playing style on the squad? Because obviously you've come into a team where kind of they played a lot of attacking football in the last couple of years. Has the transition been relatively easy in terms of what you want from the players? Yeah, I think more importantly, it's how you give them clarity on that, Dan, in terms of how I want them to play, but not taking a bit of pressure off them that things can't change overnight. And it's a process. And I've seen big changes in the players, and
there'll be a shift in certain areas, principle-wise, of how we want to look in certain moments. And we have to also use the club's values and beliefs of what they stand for and what we should stand for also, and make sure it's really aligned. And the players have took to it really well. I couldn't have asked for any more from them, and we've took big steps in the short term to come from where we've been and where we're going to go. And hopefully people will see that shift in mentality when the season starts. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cheers. Chris Brooks.
Hi, Martin.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
You touched on it at the start, really, with kind of mentioning creativity. But I want to ask, really, Martin, about making Spurs an enjoyable team to watch, because the messages we heard the last couple of seasons were that was what Spurs was all about. It seemed more and more, maybe over time, there was a lack of players who could make it exciting, who could get on the ball and take people on. Maybe Celine Bizet was the closest thing to that when she was here. Jess Naz has attributes that are exciting, but was often used differently. So do you see a need, first and foremost, to make the team entertaining? And where do you see that coming from? Does Araya Dennis get more of a chance? Matilda? What about centrally midfield? How does that evolve?
Yeah, you got the answers. No, more importantly for me, I think I want the team to look exciting. I want to be able to stand and watch my own team and feel the energy and feel the passion and kick and head every ball with them. And yes, the team's going to be exciting. I think what you have to do is you have to allow players to take risk and be brave. And we have to support that, which we will. And more importantly, over time, when that becomes kind of muscle memory to those players, they'll be able to do that more consistently with probably a higher level of detail. And I want the team to be exciting, and we will be. And we will risk the ball at times. We'll be more aggressive on the front foot in terms of how we press the game. But some of the players you've mentioned there, I've seen a big shift in their confidence and belief, more importantly. The likes of Matilda Wimberg has looked brilliant for us in pre-season, and she's done exceptionally well. And more importantly, then going into this game now, the likes of Araya Dennis has trained really well all week, and she's trained well in pre-season. She's been patient. She's had the opportunities when they've come, and Araya just needs a little bit of guidance and a little bit more coaching. And now she's maybe getting that a little bit more kind of consistent. I think you'll see a bigger challenge in her and probably a better player.
Just the last one, Martin, an easy one, really. Just what do you think about the goalkeepers only having 8 seconds to release the ball?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because probably the interesting part with it is how quick do you count the 8 seconds and how do each referee count it differently. But more importantly, it's a rule we have to embrace, and we have to make sure that we do our part within that in terms of how we use the ball in those moments, and making sure that when opportunity presents itself the other way, that we're ruthless when we get these chances. And you have to look at it from probably two sides. There's positives and negatives for it, but I actually think it helps to get the ball back in play quicker, and it probably kills a lot of dead time.
Cheers, Martin. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Chris Cowan.
Hi Martin, nice to meet you, and hope you're well.
You too.
I want to start by asking who will your captain be, vice captains this season?
Yeah, so Beth is the captain, and the vice captains underneath that will be underpinned by numerous players of Molly. You've got Drew Spence, Evelina's there, Olga's been around that. But more importantly for me, I don't really look at it that way, Chris, and that's something I probably learned abroad, if I'm honest. Is I don't like to put a hierarchy in place that it separates each individual. Like there's a sort of level where you need to be at, and I think everyone can lead in their own way. More importantly for me, Beth England will be the captain, and she's led the team really, really well. And more importantly, if Beth's not on the pitch, then another player will lead, and Molly's done that in pre-season at times. And then if Molly's not on the pitch, but I usually do it based off the feeling I get within the game and kind of the feeling of the person I want to lead in that moment within the game. Sometimes it might be that, do you know what, I need this type of player because I need their kind of passion, their energy to lift the rest of the group. And usually players and leaders usually lead by example, and most of the time by behaviour. And in certain moments it might be a different vice captain or a different captain, but more importantly it's only because of the feeling I want for the game.
Martin, in terms of the transfer window, how important is it for you as a new manager to get the players in that you want, and did you get everything that you wanted in that window?
We always want more, Chris. Everyone wants more. Which manager doesn't want to spend 5 million in the transfer window? No, I think more importantly, I said it earlier on, I don't want to just bring players into the club for the sake of doing it so we pack out the squad. I want it to be the right player for this team, and the right player that's going to impact, and more importantly, a player that can come in and make a big difference and give us an edge. And we've done a lot within this transfer window, but if it doesn't become available, it doesn't become available. And I don't want to force a transfer for the sake of doing it, as I said. I want to make sure, A, the player wants to come here, A, the person wants to come here, Secondly, we want to invest in that player short and long term, and more importantly, they're going to add value to me and the staff and the players. And if they do that, then brilliant. But if they don't, I make sure that we just work harder with this playing group to make sure that we bring out more in them. And as I said, the right players come available, we'll do it.
Martin, lastly, of course, the big gap. I remember a couple of years ago asking Rob Villaham about the gap and the top teams, Spurs women, and playing Champions League. His vision was always that he wanted the Spurs women to be playing Champions League after 2 years. How far away are the Spurs women from playing Champions League football? Because, of course, you've got Champions League experience managing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'd love to see Champions League football at Tottenham.
Yeah, no, 100%. And how long's a piece of string? More importantly, I think we have a lot of potential as a team. We have a lot of quality. We have steps to take. And if you're saying to me now we're going to be in the Champions League next season, I wouldn't be being realistic, Chris, if I'm being honest. We have to understand, more importantly, the steps we've got to take. Are we striving to get there? 100%. Will we get there? I'll do everything in my power to make sure we do. The club will do the same. But more importantly, we have to, if we're just thinking of that end goal now, we probably missed the process behind that in terms of getting us there. And I think that's where you probably have the bumps in the road and you hit too many potholes, more importantly. And I want to make sure that we focus on what we can control. And every year we're taking the right steps. And I believe in this time now, in the next 3, 4, 5 years, we'll be a consistent team in the Champions League.
Best of luck, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Rachel Cohen.
Hi, Martin.
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
You talked about giving players a chance in pre-season.
Yes.
To show out. And then right at the end of pre-season, we saw Anna Chiki going on loan to West Ham. And she hadn't had many minutes in some of those games, but obviously you saw her in training as well. What was that decision based on?
Just based on the squad in general. I think we've got a lot of players, as you know, in the middle of the pitch, and more importantly, Anna's a player who's got a lot of potential and a lot of quality, but maybe in that position where she plays as a number 10, we've got probably 4 to 5 players in there. And then when you're looking at the squad profile in general, it's to make sure that Anna gets the opportunities to develop, opportunity to play, and we had that conversation. And more importantly, it's to make sure that she can go and get valuable minutes, and she's still going to get them in the Super League, which is important. And she still has 2 years left on her contract, which is important for us as a club, and we want to make sure that we give her every opportunity to play minutes. And those conversations with me and Anna are obviously confidential, but more importantly, it's to make sure that we don't just have players sitting around in terms of in the squad who want to play, and I want to give everyone the opportunity to do that.
Thanks. And talking about players who are getting new opportunities, we saw Kate Graham come back in pre-season. Obviously, she's a massive favourite amongst the players and fans. She's been around, she's come to a lot. Have you started to see her bringing sort of creativity? And do you think that she's going to be playing mostly as a 10 for you? Because she's obviously been played in different positions.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful to see Kit back, because she's had a torrid time with injury and those other aspects, and I think you don't want to see that for any player, not just Kit. But yeah, I think Kit's quality in terms of technically with the ball and her improvising and creativity in the attacking third is really big. She influences the game totally different, and yeah, she can play as a 10, she could play as a 9, but more probably as a false 9. She could play off the side and we could work it inside the pitch, but I think her best position is probably a 10 in terms of how creative she is and what she can do from those positions. And I'm hopefully now she's away from those injuries. More importantly, she can start to show everyone more consistently what she can do. And she's been training really well. She's in a good place. We just have to make sure that we manage Kit in terms of in certain moments to allow her to get the confidence back in her body to be able to perform at that level. But everything I've seen from her, she's moving in the right direction.
Great. And just finally, obviously facing West Ham on Sunday and former Spurs manager, it's been a quite torrid. In the past, we've had a lot of goals and a lot of sometimes chaos in these matchups. What are you looking forward to or worried about in this game?
Hopefully not a lot of chaos, and hopefully not a lot of goals in our goal. But more importantly, no, Rianne done a wonderful job here. She was successful while she was here. She built and started to build the legacy for this women's team at Tottenham. And yeah, I've been fortunate enough to come in off the back of her and Robert and try and take this team forward. And yeah, these games are going to be competitive, and West Ham are a wonderful team and we have a good team. And yeah, on the day we need to make sure that we're the better team who has better edge, and more importantly, we're a team that can take those opportunities when they come. And I have no doubt Rianne's going to have them well organised, and we need to make sure we match that and go above and beyond that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jacob?
Hi, how are you?
I'm all good, thank you. First question from me is, in terms of domestic cups, Spurs obviously saw domestic cup success with their FA Cup run 2 years ago, reaching the final. But last season, it was a bit more disappointing with 2 relatively early cup exits. For you, how important would a domestic cup run be, and how do you balance this with the league?
Yeah, no, I think I won't look at them in isolation, and we definitely won't as a squad, because it's not my nature of kind of isolating a cup competition for any compensation of league or another competition. I think every competition we go into, we'll be competitive, and I will make sure that we're competitive in every cup competition, because we want to be in a final, and we should. In the league, we want to be competitive in every game, and we should. And I'm not going to go into any competition and compensate league for cup or cup for league. I'll make sure that we're challenging everyone, and the strongest team will go out in every single game to make sure that we, more importantly, embrace the competition, but more importantly, we take the right steps forward. And that's making sure initially that we establish a playing style that we can take to teams, and we don't have to go into games and be more reserved.
Thank you. And lastly from me, you spoke before on West Ham. Speaking more specifically, they've obviously got such a strong attack. We've seen last season, Shakira Martinez, Vivian Asseyi, Rico Ueki, kind of the threat that those 3 players have. How do you plan to use this on Sunday? And is there anything you've done specifically in training?
No, we're obviously aware of the threat of West Ham, but more importantly, we have to focus on how we're going to defend against that. But more putting an eye on the opposition and not taking away our core principles and identity from that and changing. I know they've got wonderful players throughout their squad, as I alluded to, and more importantly, we have to be at the top of our game to stop that. But also on the flip side, that we have really good players in our team, and we have opportunities to exploit them at the same time. So we'll focus on what we can control, and that's our performance. And more important, we'll focus on how we can hurt them, as well as trying to stop it going the other net at the same time.
Thank you very much, and best of luck for Sunday.
Thank you very much. Take care. Thank you.
Phoebe?
Hi, Phoebe. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I know you've touched on this slightly already, but last season was disappointing in terms of where the club finished. From your perspective, personally, what would you be happy with?
Winning the league. More importantly, I'm not, and I've said this before, that might sound stupid, but I've said this and people will know me, I'm not here to take part. I'm not here to just turn up and want to turn up and just, I'm happy to be at Tottenham and I get to coach, and I come in every day, I work hard every day along with the players and staff to make sure that we can be as successful as we can, and I'll make sure that this team represents this club in the right way and they understand the levels of what this club is and where we're going to go. And I want to be in every competition, every game. We are going to be competitive, and I won't put a ceiling on it because I don't think that's right, because then you limit in terms of when you get there, you don't know what to do. And but more importantly, we have to better what we did last year, and then more from a statistics and data perspective, we have to win more games, we have to concede less, we have to score more. And I believe if you do that and focus on performance and the process behind that, it'll put us in a good position at the end of the season.
And leading off that, I was wondering, what is the team's mindset like going into this season?
Yeah, good. I think when you come out of a season, Phoebe, as you know, in terms of with finishing 11th, and maybe they felt they were probably in a relegation battle at times, and you know you're close to that drop, and maybe the confidence and self-belief isn't high. And being honest, it wasn't great when I come in, and I totally understand why, because they're humans and you have feelings for that. But more importantly, we've changed in terms of how we want to look and the outlook on the squad. And my job is to make sure I lift them and give them confidence every day that they feel unstoppable and they feel like they can go out and play against anyone. And I think when we put our performances together and we're ruthless, whether it's against any team in this league, if you want to call it a group at the top and a group further down, we know on our day we can be competitive. And more importantly, we have to do that consistently over the season if we want to achieve our ambitions and work towards them. So I have no doubt we'll do that. And yeah, the mentalities have to shift a lot.
And obviously it's positive they are offering minimum salaries for the WSL and the WSL2. I was just wondering which other areas of investment you'd like to see to ensure there's continued momentum and continued growth in the women's game.
Yeah, I think what you just said then, I think is a key thing in terms of providing a minimum salary for those players to enable them to be professional. And that's not just for them to be a footballer, but also for them to live their life as a professional footballer away from the pitch, in terms of how they can look after themselves, how they can nutritionally do things right, and physically how they can recover properly and so on, and invest in in apparatus and resource that enables them to, more importantly, be a professional footballer. And I think it's a good move. And there'll be so many things. I think they've made good changes now in terms of expanding the league and making sure that, obviously, as you just said, people are going to have a minimum salary, which is important. But there's a lot more steps, and I'm not in that business to decide what they do with the league. But more importantly, I think the people who are in that position know what they're doing, and they're trying to take the right steps at the right moments. And I don't think it's long before we'll see it really push even further, and there'll probably be a lot more changes to that in the future, and you'll probably see an even bigger league probably in the future.
Thank you, and good luck for Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Francesca?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Just a quick one from me. After the Arsenal pre-season game, you touched up about the first half. You're a little bit passive, so how have you sort of gone about this after that game and looked at it, and how are you preparing to go into this game to try and not have the same first half that you did?
Make sure we're not passive again. And that's just more reinforcement. I think analytically you have to do a lot of work to make sure that the players understand it, but it's okay doing it on a video and explaining. You have to actually make them feel what it looks like on the pitch. And making sure that when things go well, you praise that and you reinforce that message that this is kind of the way we need to look. Just more reinforcements off the pitch in terms of from a confidence perspective, but then on it, reinforcing when the messages are right and it looks good. And I think we've done that in terms of from Arsenal, then into Southampton, in terms of we've started to really push from the first minute, which is important, and started to be very energetic. And I also know it's a totally different way of probably defending for the team from previous. And I want to make sure that we give them that time to do that, because it does take time to adapt to it, physically and technically. And they've started to do that. So I couldn't have asked for any more since that first half against Arsenal, where we wasn't brave enough and we didn't show enough courage at moments. And I think since then we've really started to apply it. But I understand it's a process. It doesn't happen straight away. Thank you.
Thanks. Finally, we'll come to Lola. Thanks for your patience.
Hello, Martin.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So we've been seeing a rising importance of young players and academy players in general, especially during injury crises or in moments of struggle. So have you been integrating more young players or academy players into the squad, whether it's to get them game time or just in training?
Yeah, no, more important. I think my background, as a lot of people will know, is from development and youth development, and bringing and probably having a bigger passion for developing players, and especially youth players. And we've had throughout pre-season now maybe 6 or 7, I think, in terms of training with us from the under-19s group consistently. Some of them travelled away with us to Sevilla. Some of them had participation in 2 or 3 games. It's more importantly for me, I don't look at it in terms of if they're young. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And more importantly, it's my job to make sure that they're given the confidence and the tools to be able to go and perform in the Super League, but also understand that they still have a lot of development stages to go. And we'll see that through the season now, in terms of not just in injury moments, because I feel then you put someone in when it's just an injury crisis, it's maybe a one-off. And what I want to make sure is this club has a rich history for developing their own players and has an ethos for doing that from a top perspective in terms of leadership. And I want to make sure that I give every young player an opportunity when it's right. And it has to be right, but more importantly, they're given the opportunity to showcase their skills regularly in training, and we've done that with 6 or 7 of them throughout the pre-season now.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
Thank you.